In Talent, Oregon, just steps from Broadway Alley, the lights come up. Rehearsal becomes performance. Process becomes story. And artists meet audience in the same room. This is Where Broadway Meets Talent.
And welcome back to Where Broadway Meets Talent, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of the stories, the artists, and the passion that bring live theater to life here at Camelot Theatre. I'm Brian O'Connor, and today we are talking about a powerful new production that's opening now. It is running right now on our stage, Three Tall Women by Edward Albee, the Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright. And this is a deeply personal, intimate, and emotionally resonant piece, and I've heard from several people, and I can personally vouch that this story, this show really stays with you. Joining me today on the podcast is the director of this production, Tommy Statler. Thank you so much, Tommy, for being here today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So, Tommy, for people who may not be familiar with Three Tall Women, how would you describe the experience of this play without giving too much away?
I would describe it as Edward Albee working through some of his processes with dealing with the death of his mother. At the time he was writing the play, he was dealing with his own health issues, so he has a lot of serious questions. He didn't have a great relationship with his mother. I think we can frankly call it horrible because everyone else does. He wanted to write a piece, and he wrote this piece, and he talked about at different points with his mother kind of understanding and coming to a conclusion of where their relationship was, where it wasn't. And Edward Albee has always dealt with things in a dark humor way. He's always looked at the joke of it. He's looked at the grotesque as the harsh, and he's always just kind of found a laugh in them. I think it's one of his best coping mechanisms that he put into writing. And so you're supposed to go to the thing with Albee, and the way he goes at it, he leaves it in the audience's hands as to whether you're going to laugh or whether you're going to cringe. It's a piece where it's three actresses holding all of the lines, and then there's a fourth character who comes in Act 2. But he switches styles mid-play too, which is also a fun part of this piece, and part of why it won the Pulitzer in '94 is in Act 1 we start in a very realism, very much we are in the bedroom of this woman, and in Act 2 we go into a very different surreal space, and so making that pivot from Act 1 to Act 2 is a lot of fun within this piece.
Mm-hmm. People are coming out of the show very much affected, which is great when live theater can do that. What is it about this piece that hits so deeply?
I think with this piece, he just writes it with the three different generations in mind. So I'm not spoiling anything by saying that with Three Tall Women, they're each three different ages. One is 26, one is 52, and one is 91 or 92, depending on who you ask. Yeah. But he writes those parts. So basically, no matter where you are in your life, there's somewhere for you to jump into the story. Everybody has a mother. He has a horrible relationship with his mother, so regardless of where your relationship is with your maternal figure, you can track into that. And also, he writes it sharp and witty and quick, and then at the end, he turns it into poetic perspective. And I think our lighting designer, Aaron Young, and our sound designer and composer, Harley Ebman, did a good job of, we wanted to bridge it for the audience to like, this is the end of the play, and now you get to go home. And I think they did a really good job, particularly with us getting out of our acts, and so the audience is able to go into intermission and able to go home and able to be like, oh, that music and that light kind of helped me bridge where I was in that moment.
Mm-hmm. This is a very intimate play. Like you said, there's only 4 actors total. How does that intimacy change the way an audience experiences it compared to a larger production?
The way that three folk are going to change it, because it's just three of them in Act One, is it starts to get, like you said, intimate. It gets private. And the fun part about Act One is we get to pretend that fourth wall is there. So they do get to play it like it's three of them going into the room. And the audience is going to be able to, they'll appreciate the weight of what the actor is doing with their craft, but they'll also just jump into the simplicity of the story, because there's elements of dementia and Alzheimer's in there. And so there's a lot of lines that loop, a lot of lines that cut back, we repeat, we move forward, we take a step sideways, then it's all sort of jumbled in there. And yeah, the fun with Camelot in this theater is we pushed the action downstage a little bit, just enough that we felt like we could get it closer to the audience and get it closer to their laps and get a little bit more of a sitting in your living room feel. And I think with three folk, it's able to just toe that line of big enough to get out to the house and be a motivated theater story, but also private enough that you feel that level of, oh, I know each one of these three people.
There's a raw honesty in this script. How did you approach that coming in as a director?
I think I talked about this last time I was on the podcast. I always just go for the tension in the room, and we always just strive for the tension. And then the way that we break or the way that the audience breaks kind of tells us where to go. And Albee writes tension. The hard part about how good he's written it is it's very easy to take it very seriously, very quickly, especially when you do it over and over again. There's no audience laughing in the rehearsal room. You could get very, for lack of a better term, melodramatic with this, where you're starting to talk about what you're feeling and you're stretching the language. But Albee wants it quick. He wants it sharp. He wants it on the point. And the craft with it is how fast do we pivot the language, kind of like if you're driving down a downtown that's square, like LA, like you're pivoting and you're accelerating and you're and it's that acceleration deceleration moment within the language that really stands out in this play with Albee.
So we've talked about Edward Albee already. Audiences may be more familiar with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. That was his big one. What makes this play similar or different from his more well-known works? And were you familiar with Three Tall Women coming into this?
I think what makes this familiar with his works is it is still Albee in the sense of he still uses that tactic of, I'm going to say the thing I shouldn't say, and I'm going to say it casually, and I'm going to say it quickly, and that's going to be the joke.
Yeah.
Like that is what his root is. I think, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, I think that language and that show does have a lot more catharsis within the characters that we're seeing them feel and kind of go through with these women. It's more sharp. I think he's later in his career in 1992 when he's writing it, 93 when it opens. And so he's much more surgical. He's much more specific. I think he has a wonderful ear as a playwright, and I think his ear got sharper as he got older. I think he's the type of person who could hear a conversation and remember the syntax and remember all of that, and then go back and write it on a typewriter.
Right.
And so I think he's taking a lot of his tricks that he's learned throughout the years, and he's amalgamating them here, and he's applying them to a personal story. And yeah, I was familiar with the play ahead of time. I studied it in graduate school. We did it for a week, and I was in my late 20s at the time, and I really didn't catch to it. And so when Gwen asked me if I'd be interested, I'd kind of forgotten it and what it was and where it was in the Albee canon, and I went back and reread it. And it hits differently, when you're in your late 30s than when you're in your late 20s. You start to experience things with not yourself getting older necessarily as much as your parents are getting older. And that's kind of also here in this play. My mother has dementia symptoms. So luckily we personally, we found this out a couple years ago, so I've had some time to start to figure out my part of it, because I don't think you should approach a play if it's still too soft. You know, you mentioned Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. That'd be a dangerous play to go in after you've just like experienced a miscarriage in your life. So like that.
Right.
So I think this one is far enough away. And so when I read it, I was moved by it. I said yes. And then it became the fun challenge of like, I need to put my part into this play, but I don't need to put like my life into this play. This play is not about me. It's about three tall women and Clayton. And so,
and Clayton,
and Clayton, the boy. So, yeah.
Obviously, this is a very much an actor-driven piece. What has it been like working with this cast on material that's this emotionally layered?
It's tougher in the sense that you can't spend too much time when it's got the textures like this talking about how it affects you as a character. You need to spend time affecting other folk and being so focused on what you want that you kind of forget how you are and what has happened to you. There are moments in the play where we stopped and we said, no, this is one we're going to look at. But, and it gets, the way that we approach that in rehearsal is we're just going to do it again and do it again and do it again as much as we could. We have a limited amount of time to get this play up. So also part of this play is the specificity within the lines and how it may seem like, you know, the character with dementia is saying the same speech 3 times, but there's little itty bitty like cues that are different each time she talks about riding a stride and loving it. And so we're getting to that. And so we're at this point, what we had to do is we had to trust the playwright more intrinsically because it's so well written. And then I think all of our actors did a great job once they got into their individual space with that, working off of each other. And now they are at a point where they are kind of like this triad that is working and moving and flowing. And it's very exciting to see.
Were there moments in rehearsal where you immediately knew that this was going to be something very special?
I think the first read was really, really a spot where it was my first time to hear the language out loud. I had a sense of what I thought it would be, and the actors did a great job in the read. We still obviously have rehearsal and things that we worked on, but they came prepared. They knew the story, and they drove the story. And so that at that point set a good base standard, a bottom of a pyramid. If you're looking for a metaphor of like, okay, we can make this in time, and we can make this at the level that we want to make it at. Because that's always part of the rehearsal process, is the anxiety of the, will we make it? And yes, we will. So I think once that happened, I was settled, and I felt good, and I felt like we just had to go about our business and do what we needed to do. And yeah, trusting the actors, and they did great with it.
This is a very limited run. It's part of our American drama series, so only 2 weekends. So it runs through May 10th. For someone on the fence, what would you tell them, and how would you encourage them to come see Three Tall Women right now?
You don't get you don't often get a great chance to see a Pulitzer Prize-winning piece. And so for the Pulitzer, which for those of you that don't know is a prize that's given out best dramaturgy work in a given year. So they only have one a year. Fat Ham was at OSF last year. That was a Pulitzer. And so getting an opportunity to see this, and because when you read Pulitzer work, it can kind of seem like, I don't get why this doesn't seem like this big, like crazy thing but when you see the textures and the layers performed out, you go, oh, that's how you like distinguish playwriting from, writing a poem or a story or a novel. The approach and the precision that Albee has put in there. Again, in a time that he was writing on a typewriter, he was not using computers. So it's just,
right.
It's wild. I think going and seeing what it takes and how it can be uplifted by four great actors. And our costumes are really good too. Siobhan, our costume designer, did a great job. The first act is set in 1993. And then Act Two is set really across different time periods, set in 1927, 1950, and then 1993 again. So it was no small task, and I think Siobhan did a great job with it.
What do you hope audiences are thinking or feeling as they leave the theater?
I'm kind of lucky that I don't put hope on the result. I kind of approach the work of, I'm going to work with the script and with the actors and with the company, Camelot in this case, and we're going to put on a great show, and audiences get to feel how they want to feel. But what people are telling me is that they're finding very personal connections with this. Our audiences have been older to this point, and I think the play plays well for older audiences. But the younger character, who's 26, plays well for young audiences. So I think everybody's kind of coming out with their own personal story of it. And I think that's what's fun about it. Everybody's inspired or talks about, well, I had this with my mom, or I felt this and it reminded me of this thing with my dad, or this or that. It allows you to kind of just drum up a little bit of whatever you've got that's kind of calcified. And Albee finds a fun way of breaking down things. And it opens it up. So audiences are coming away feeling hopeful at the end. It's a bit of a slog getting through emotionally because there is such serious matter that's being discussed, sometimes in a flippant way. But Albee writes it and pays it off in the end.
Well, and you and I were talking last night also, my mom passed away about a year ago, and there was some dementia involved in, her final months too. And this production really affected me. I came away totally blown away. One of the most impactful pieces of theater I've ever seen. I mean, the cast was tremendous. Your direction, of course, was great. And then you throw in the tech elements. And it's really something very special that you and the rest of the creative team have created at Camelot Theatre. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah. Tommy Statler, director of Three Tall Women, now playing at Camelot through May 10th. Thank you so much for taking time to visit with us and share your thoughts about this incredible show.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Brian.
Again, Three Tall Women only runs through May 10th, so just a few more performances left to go and check this show out. So if you're looking for a night of theater that's thoughtful, powerful, and truly memorable, this is one you won't want to miss. Get your tickets now at CamelotTheatre.org. Thank you so much for listening to Where Broadway Meets Talent, and we'll see you at the theater.